19 of the fantasy basketball season, and now with the fantasy basketball trade deadline approaching here today, here's a few forwards I look to buy and trade for here before the deadline ends. The first guy, Andrew Wiggins of the Golden State Warriors. So Andrew Wiggins, he's been a solid fantasy player over the last 4 or 5 seasons. We know he could score the basketball, and we know he's a guy that don't miss many games on the season. 17.5 points a game, 4.2 rebounds, 2.2 assists, a steal, 2.2 threes a game, and 47% from the field. But the last couple weeks here, his numbers have gone down. 13.3 points a game, 4 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 1.7 steals, and 38% from the field. So he's definitely in a slump, is Andrew Wiggins. But like I mentioned, he's been a consistent ball player for years in fantasy basketball, and a guy who don't miss many games as well here, which is a rarity nowadays in the NBA and for fantasy, obviously. So the last few games here for Wiggins, February 24th at Portland, 10 points, 3 boards, an assist, 2 steals, a block, 2 threes, 30% from the field. February 27th versus the Mavericks, 18 points, 2 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 threes, 43% from the field. And March 1st at Minnesota, 12 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, 2 threes, and 38% from the field. So right now, the scoring's definitely down. His rebounding is down as well here for Wiggins. But he's a guy, like I mentioned, who's consistent. You could count on him. And you know what you're going to get from him. In my opinion, he's underrated in fantasy basketball over the last few seasons. His three-point shot's improved, and his field goal is improved as well. So right now, he's just in a little bit of a slump, in my opinion, after the All-Star break. But he's going to get things going once again. And he's definitely a player I would go out there and try to trade for. And I don't think you got to break the bank to get him at all. The next forward's Tobias Harris of the Philadelphia 76ers. I know James Harden's in town and Embiid the 1 and 2 options on this roster. But Tobias Harris, another player like Andrew Wiggins who doesn't miss much time. And you know what you're going to get from him. Pencil him in for good stats. So on the season, 18.2 points a game, 7.2 rebounds, 3.6 assists, 1.2 threes a game, and 48% from the field. But the last couple weeks here, his numbers dropped off as well. 12.8 points a game, 5.8 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 1.5 threes a game, and 39% from the field. But Harris, we know when he gets hot, he could be a big-time scorer. I know he's the 3rd or 4th option now over there in Philly with Harden in town. And obviously Simmons gone, who didn't play a game at all for the Sixers this year. But right now, while his value's down and his stats are down, this is a perfect time to get him pretty cheap, in my opinion. February 25th in Minnesota, 6 points, 3 boards, 4 assists, a steal, 2 threes, 22% from the field. February 27th at the Knicks, 12 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, a block, 2 threes, 33% from the field. And then last night, March 2nd, versus the New York Knicks, 14 points, 7 rebounds, an assist, 2 blocks, 2 threes, and 50% from the field to Harris. I know he could score the basketball. I know he's a good rebounder, and he's just in a slump right now. He's just got to acclimate, in my opinion, to playing with James Harden and a couple guys on this roster. But once he gets going, he could be a big piece for fantasy owners and a guy who could definitely contribute to fantasy owners winning a championship. And the third and final forward I look to buy this week is Pascal Siakam of the Toronto Raptors. So Siakam, he's had great seasons over the last 3 or 4 years as the leader and the main man over there in Toronto. On the season, 21.1 points a game, 8.4 rebounds, 5.2 assists, 1.3 steals a game, a 3 a game, and 47% from the field. But the last couple weeks for him as well, only 12 points a game, 6 boards, 4.8 assists, 1.3 steals, and an awful 29% from the field. So that's unlike Pascal Siakam with that field goal percentage way down. And he's been in a slump with it for most of February here with the low field goal. But he still gives on his other categories, and we know he's a good scorer. And right now with the field goal and the scoring way down, it's a perfect time to buy him low, because once he gets back going, Siakam, he's definitely a top 30 or 40 fantasy player in this league. So the last few games from February 26th at Atlanta, 14 points, 10 boards, 5 assists, 37% from the field. February 28th at Brooklyn, 8 points, 3 boards, 6 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, a 3, and only 14% from the field. And then March 1st versus Brooklyn, a nice bounce-back game, 18 points, 8 boards, 6 assists, a steal, and 36% from the field. So he's got a couple easy matchups coming up versus Detroit and Orlando. And now with the deadline being here today in most fantasy leagues, this is the last and final time you could go out there and get Siakam. And I think he definitely could pay huge dividends for fantasy owners. And you know what you're going to get. Right now, it's just a slump. Right now, just post All-Star game slumping here. And once he gets back going, is Siakam, he's going to be a big player for fantasy owners. So this is a perfect time to go out there and buy him for your roster. So that's a few forwards I look to buy and trade for here for Week 19 of the fantasy basketball season.